So, as a big fan of Nando V movies and a number of other video essay writers on YouTube, I want to look up to them and follow in their footsteps in creating this collection of one marvellous scene, in anticipation for Endgame. Though, as I write this, Endgame isn't out, but by the time this video is, Endgame will probably be on DVD. Now, the scene that I want to do is the airport scene. How simple, but yes, as this is my first video essay, of course I'd like to try something obvious. Coming out in 2016 off the back of Age of Ultron, which I stand by and say is a good film, but others just call it MCU filler, we get treated to Captain America's Civil War. The best MCU trilogy has got to be that of Captain America's. Each one of Chris Evans' films is an absolute banger. It's somewhat unfair that Captain America has to share his final solo movie with pretty much all the other Avengers, but this is because his character is near to the perfect person. His films are more about changing the world around him than him changing as a character. Apart from obviously the first Avenger, where he goes for a pretty big physical change. That's only so he can really make the actual change without being blown up by Nazis. The biggest things in his life are the Avengers and Bucky. The Avengers face change from the government. Cap can no longer trust the government, as in his previous movie, Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and had corrupted something that he believed in. Cap's trust for the government is no more. Bucky has also been changed a lot by Hydra, turning him into a murder weapon. Cap wants to change Bucky back into who he was and keep the Avengers who they are. Cap runs into the airport and is met with his closest friend in this century. Their friendship isn't the strongest, but they trust and rely on one another. Cap knows he has to stop the other super soldiers from being let into the world, which makes you think that he is right about the Accords, but Tony, the hero throughout the whole MCU, is now the barrier to stopping the world from being saved by Cap. But Tony thinks he is right, and feels that the Accords can help get Pepper back and stop the vision that he saw in Age of Ultron from becoming a reality. They are both fighting for what they think is the greater good, to help each other. They are both right and both wrong, arguably like Thanos in Infinity War. This is also how Tony can go back to being the hero after being the antagonist in this film, because we can sympathise for him and understand where he is coming from. Something that gets brought up a lot, was Tony crazy to bring a child like Peter to fight against the super soldier? Well, yeah, kind of, but I'd like to think that Tony had no idea how the fight was going to escalate to the state that it got to. The plan was not to have a fight. Tony was going to send Spider-Man in, Spider-Man would get Cap's shield, Cap would listen, and the fight would be over. But I don't think Tony realised quite how passionate Steve was about this fight. If Cap saw that there was a child on the battleground, I think Tony thought that he wouldn't let it get into the massive explosion fest that it turned into. But I'm very glad Tony did bring Spider-Man in, because bloody hell, it's very, very cool.
I'm trying to keep you from tearing the Avengers apart. You did that when you signed. Alright, we're done. You're gonna turn Barnes over, you're gonna come with us. Now, because it's us!
This line is a perfect reflection of them, and what they are fighting for. Tony only wants to arrest Bucky, and sees him as the antagonist. And then what happens is the best fight scene in the whole of the MCU. In the MCU, Wanda hates Tony. Even though he is a changed man, he still created the weapons that killed her family. Her parents with the missile, and Ultron, killing Quicksilver. So I like that even though she has a deep connection to Vision, she still thinks Tony Stark is wrong. The tension gets bigger and bigger, and the fight really changed after Ant-Man makes the mistake of throwing the truck that will explode. Before, people were throwing punches, but now that mistake led them to become more destructive.
Oh, come on! Oh man, I thought it was a water truck. Sorry. Alright, now I'm pissed.
The team lines up, and the action is about to get real. Here, you can see Spider-Man is great for taking out Cap, and you can see why Stark brought him for the role. He can use his range to get at Captain America, but the scene bottles down to Natasha choosing she'd rather end the fight than let it continue. She lets the Captain make his getaway. War Machine tries to stop them from getting away, but then hit by Vision, causing him to fall down and be paralysed. I wanted to see repercussions from this, like the fact Vision sees himself as too powerful and can only be used on the battlefield if completely necessarily. But it's most likely that he's dead now. So I don't know if we're going to see this in the future of the MCU. In the cinema, as we watched War Machine fall to the ground, we all thought he was going to be gone for good. He probably should have died and made the whole fight scene have an impact for all the characters. But hopefully he makes for a good character in Endgame. and it'd be justified keeping him around. These guys forgot how strong and dangerous they are, and that maybe they need to be monitored, maybe the Accords are needed, not to only protect civilians, but themselves.